Oh, this one's good. Oh, wait. Hello, everyone. I am here to discuss this article. Just waiting. I said it was on at 10, but that's always means 10-ish. If you have any opinion about this article, if you haven't read it, I have it here listed as a screenshot from my phone, Rise of Lonely Single Men. And because I address codependent issues in both men and women, but have found that in my private practice and even on TikTok, there's a huge need for more education around the tendencies of codependency and the mindset of codependency in men. Women tend to know a lot about it and understand a lot about why they're that way. They're a little bit more educated on these emotional matters because I think it affects them in different ways. Actually, it creates volatility in the woman that a man doesn't actually experience as much. So anyway, this is kind of a side note. However, what I'm trying to do is kind of get the ball rolling on looking at this because I'm thinking of writing the article, also The Rise of Lonely Single Women, which I also work with that are in their early 30s, early 30s that are still doing the same thing that lonely men are, according to this article, which is on being on dating apps and what an epic, I love how, we don't really talk about the epic failure of this convenience, right? And what it's done to us in general. So I think that this is what I want to talk about. And algorithm B's and bias. Yeah, B. Fragrance, I'm going to say this article in and of itself was like a man wrote it from a woman's perspective. And it was he's a colleague and a professional, but I'm embarrassed at the bias in this article, but I don't really want to cut him down because that's really not what we do. And I'm not blame gaming, but it is incredible that there's no questions asked. There is just like, I'm putting out statements. I'm saying exactly what it is that like regurgitating data without being curious. That's not who we are. Therapists are supposed to be really curious, insightful, interesting. They like to ask questions because it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about trying to figure out why this data is the way it is. What does it mean that 62%? And I have all sorts of ideas, but some of I don't know if anybody's read it. Please let me know if you have. I know that actually, I don't peruse Psychology Today on a regular basis. I am very focused on helping people and educating and doing my practice and family and all that. But I saw on TikTok this was coming online and it just right up my alley. So, one second. So, I think that please, that is exactly the brainwave I am on when I read this. I was thinking like, there's so many points I want to make, slightly mind-boggling. I should pull the article up so I can hit on some of those points. But yes, that I want to write the article. With careers, without careers. I think careers have a lot to do with this. But at the same time, I think women... we'll go to this place where this guy runs a TikTok live called A Better Love Project. Sounds like a scam for women to be able to feel like they're commiserating in some ways with other women. And I think what's really interesting is that we need to have a dialogue, not just of all women or all of men. We really do need, and I know that this sounds a little bit... difficult, but we need to talk to each other about what each other need in a relationship and what's important to us, our emotional values and all of this. And all I'm hearing is like, all the ladies say this and all the guys say this, but we're not asking what actually any of this stuff means. So we're not even having, so I'm saying like a conversation, because he says, the idea here is, in the group, what he's found with this like massive group of women between 25 and 45 that they prefer men who are emotionally available, good communicators, and share similar values. I want to ask anyone, if they want to go ahead and define it, because this is the point here, is that I'm not here to dictate. I'm here to say each one of those things: emotionally available, good communicator, and similar values. Those are all treasure chests of ideas and things within that. What is emotional availability to a woman is different than an emotional availability to a man, and they better want to talk about that and think about that. Thank you for the likes. Please, yes, generate more likes, double tap the screen, share this, because the point is to get a conversation going. And you can tell me what emotional availability means. This is one of the biggest topics on my feed, is that I am literally trying to get men in touch, reattached after codependency has detached them from their own emotional experience of life, to reattach. But men have found that reattaching, talking, and being vulnerable with a woman has a lot of times, and I've gotten a lot of kickback. Not to say it's not worth reattaching to yourself emotionally, but that this is a misnomer, that this is not absolutely clear as to what it means to be an emotionally available man. I also am working with a man that qualifies as all of these things to the T, and still with dating apps, it's a total lose-lose game. So let me see. I'm going to read some of these comments and get back to, and then pause that for a second. I'm just talking about that thing. Yes. So we did the lonely single women. I want to write the article. Dude, this scares me. Yes. I'm a newly single dad. Don't even have time to date anymore. And I want to be really clear on that. That's a transitionary period, the newly single. And I want to embrace this. I've worked with men to help them out of toxic relationships, worked with women out of toxic relationships, not because that's my job, but that is what was right for them. But they afterwards, in that transitionary period, I want to get back dating because I got to make up for all the time that you spent arguing with the person, not having good sex, all these things that we want from a relationship. We want to kind of jump back in there and make up for that. But wait a second. You haven't actually developed a sense of self that's repaired, healed, and whole for yourself, for your kids, for whatever you're doing in your life. And it's frightening. It's, in some ways, I think that's the biggest part. Men and women don't necessarily need to be lonely out of a relationship, especially if they're just coming out of one. They really, really want to motivate themselves, to put themselves first, their priorities first, start initiating action independent of having a partner there or going somewhere with somebody else. So this is a really important key step that I find a lot of people kind of skip over because the dating app is so easy. But then I find that they just regress back into the same patterns. They don't know what they're looking for. They don't know how to meet and catch their own red flags or other people's. And they haven't taken the time to develop a sense of self that's really empowered, whole, thinking like I'm on my feet now and I'm ready to walk in to getting to know someone over time. Just, it's amazing. So please do. Don't think you don't have time ever, but do know this is a very important time for you to heal. And two, what's my opinion of the 80% divorce initiated by women? Hey, Brittany, welcome. And double tap the screen if you're liking what I say, just because it helps me know that we're on the same wavelength. I think it's incredible. I think that's 80% initiated by women. I want to say that the thing with working with couples so much, and it's a very difficult thing to work with couples, especially when they're having a really tough time or they've really gotten into an ingrained dynamic. But I will say that men are not initiating divorce as much as they most likely should be. Okay. And I say that because they are staying in relationships that are emotionally abusive to them for years after years, thinking that I don't want to be seen as the divorced guy with the kids. I don't want to, upset my parents. I don't want to upset the kids. I don't want to, again, it's everything about everyone else while they're getting hammered on a daily basis, emasculated, all sorts of things. So, I think that kind of gridlock, a guy not really taking initiative to stand up for himself and really say, no, I don't want this anymore. We got to get help. You got to get help. I got to get help. Let's do this, because this is too much friction. This is not going to work for me. This is making me somatically sick. I mean, there's so many repercussions for being in an emotionally abusive relationship. Okay. So I don't think men are initiating it enough, and women are just the ones. Again, remember, I put the video out on this, that they did this study that female mammals will figure out the exit faster. A male mammal will stay in a stressful environment longer. So I think it's actually time to evolve those circuits and recognize you are also being damaged by staying in a relationship like that. And if the female and your partner doesn't want to work on it, it's totally going to stay the same, if not get worse. So, let's see, modern feminism is killing relationships. I think that the movement, I'm going to say this, and I want to read what Mo is saying. I can't keep up with everyone's today, but that's awesome. Keep going, because everybody else can read it. Just want to say that, feminism continues to change, shape, value systems, people that are writing about it. But I really think that it's kind of like if a population feels marginalized and hurt for a long time, we call it like an identification with the aggressor. There's just a flipping. Basically, now women are aggressing against men and thinking that that's something like a right, a civil right, or feminism. It's not. It's just raw aggression. And I think it's really hurtful to generalize hurtful men to the whole population and start to, again, become, and biased and racist against heterosexual white men. I think that it's like really profound to see people that that felt like victims become the people that are victimizing, and not recognize it because they feel like they've been hurt. So, Mo, empathy is emotional availability, just being able to talk about something without judgment. And I'm going to say, yes, I like that, to contribute to the article discussion. Emotional availability in this way is that I'm not afraid to put myself in your shoes. It's not going to destroy me. I'm not going to be aroused offensively. And destroy me means like a psychological fear. I'm going to stay the course with this and allow for my emotions to connect with how you're feeling, because I need to be able to have that emotional information to say something intelligent to you. So empathy, in a lot of ways, has to be taught. It's learned. Sympathy is not empathy. Sympathy is like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're having a hard time. I heard that this is a hard time. I really feel like that's a hard time. That's like the what, grandmas and aunts and certain people like, oh God, I don't want to tell them I'm having a hard time, because it's just going to be like, I have to carry their sympathy. Empathy is really letting somebody talk, emotionally identifying with what they're talking about and allowing it to be like, you're okay. I mean, with this, you're in no judgment, no defense. So I love that. And I think a lot of men can learn that. A lot of women can learn that, because it's both parties. I find that emotional availability a lot of times means, when I see women and men in our practice, and also read about this as a phenomenon, is that I need you as my partner man to totally tolerate me emotionally becoming dysregulated, saying whatever I want to say, doing whatever I want to do emotionally, and you're available for my emotional experience. but I'm not available for yours. Your emotional experience pisses me off, makes me see that you are weak, makes me understand that, oh, you can't handle that, or, I got to take care of you this way. That's really dangerous. But that's generally how it's acted out. So we say these fun words, we have these nice terms, but in reality, in the couple, they actually act themselves out in different ways. Thank you for the likes. Double tap the screen. I'm going to scroll down. And Mo, just following yours a little bit. A lot of women would rather be alone than with people who put them in minimal effort. And I'm sure men too. See, this is the thing. I think that's the no, because they believe men owe them everything for absolutely nothing in return. Well, I don't see, again, these are kind of generalizations that we're throwing around. Again, people aren't necessarily doing absolutely nothing and expecting everything in return. Same with this article. Way too much big, ball in your court for you to do something with. When a relationship, when it's a two-person model, folks, not a narcissistic model, not a codependent model, but a two-person model. They're two people together in a relationship that are different, that are wanting to know one another, get along, understand one another, and put one another as a priority in their lives. That's a real relationship. Like one that is monogamous and long-lasting, because there are going to be, life's coming at you. And if you don't have this strength of wanting to know one another, wanting to spend time with one another, wanting to do and feel and be what it is that's important to the other person, and them for you, it can't be a one-way street, then you're not in a relationship. And I love people to say it's a situationship. I'm not sure about, that I want to really move into those types of words, but I do like it because I think the word relationship is so misused, because we're not really understanding that there's nothing about what these two people are doing when it's so dysfunctional that has anything to do with the concept of relating, with really relating to another person, with empathy, with compassion, with interest, with self-reflection, so you're not blowing things up at every 5 seconds. So do you have a moderator? I don't, Lee, and if you'd like to moderate, I'm always open for that, because I cannot keep my eyes on the feed very well if it's going this fast. So please feel free. Men have more to lose. Child support, lose the house. Oh, it isn't worth it. I don't know if you're talking about why they don't initiate divorce. Yeah, I definitely think that that's another reason. However, the house, child support, I think that this is the reason why men should take it more seriously about not entering into a marriage without thoroughly thinking it through, because they are on the table for more of these types of things in the end. However, and this is more existential than it is reality, so it's okay if people don't agree with this, but I don't think that your mental and emotional health and the health of your children should ever be put on the line to stay in an abusive relationship due to monetary issues or material things. But that might be, more my Eastern side and less of my understanding of the situation. So I'm sensitive with that, but I do think I hold your mental and emotional health and the mental and emotional health of your children above the consequences when they're material. Because I do think that we can regain career path potential. I think that we can regain a really solid relationship with our children and with ourselves. Being in a relationship that's emotionally abusive is incredibly debilitating, and it can really destroy your career. It can destroy your health, and it can turn your kids into something that I'm treating later on because they're incredibly neurotic, because they've just seen nothing but dysfunction all their lives. So I know it's a tough pill to swallow, and man, I live it all the time. I mean, see the child support and the houses and all the things, but it's the lives that they can create afterwards are so much better than all of that. But that's again, that's something that I'm seeing from my perspective, and I appreciate other people's too. But men staying in bad relationship is the court order payouts. Yeah, here we are with that again. I'll just scroll down a little bit to catch up. I'm going to another country to find love. Yes, you could go to Spain. You could go to a lot of different Latin countries. There's a lot of love there, a lot of sex. Girls leave too fast. You know, men should just date men. I like that. And then women should just date women. Let's not do that. But I do think that's the direction we're going. I don't mean to be like completely hilarious, but I mean, I do think that people are starting to just go, well, you're easy to get along with and you understand me emotionally. Because again, remember what we were saying, we're looking at these 3 factors that women want: emotional availability, good communicators. By the way, women have to learn how to be good communicators too, and share similar values. Values have changed, and you can't assume that a lot of times people don't even know what they value. I said, what are your relationship values? What are your personal values? They kind of blanket me like loyalty, you know, some of these major like moral ones. And I'm like, no, what do you really value about? And double tap the screen, everybody, at least 3 times. If everyone did that, we'd be up to 2,000. And sharing this with more people. So just keep on tapping the screen until your finger gets a little tired. So that's the thing is that, so I was just saying, we're starting to do this value testing, and it's like, unless they mirror my values, I'm not interested. Okay, well, so what, are you interested in a man that is that like has the values of a woman? I do think it's okay to have different values. Where is the appreciation of difference anymore? Everything's got to be the same. That's actually, in our world of clinical understanding of psychology, that's chaos. And that's complete and utter narcissism. So when everything just becomes one big blob of the same thing, or I can only like things like me, now we're really regressing. We're regressing way back. We need to appreciate difference and be not afraid to get to know somebody else's values. And I'm not talking about their political values. I am talking about their personal values. What's valuable about what they're interested in. Their emotional value, meaning like, do they appreciate what it takes to be in a relationship? Do they emotionally value themselves? Do they have self-esteem? Do they love themselves? You know, I value me, you know, so I'm not going to be stepped on. How about you? I want you to also value you. And that will help us navigate some of the things that we're not going to be able to predict. So I hope that you kind of see where I'm coming from. We need to frustrate ourselves by having difference in order to grow. And when couples get into these relationships, by the way, that I work with, and they're like, oh, you know, I've been married 20 years and now I'm coming to you and I'm 50. I don't think anything's going to change. However, I need it to change. They are now in a dynamic that they're like, it's a feedback loop of dysfunction. And they somehow kind of orbit around each other to stay together. Now everything's same. The routine's the same. The way they act together is the same. The way they give to each other is the same. And it really starts to wear on men. Actually, most men come to me with a lot of grievance about how they cannot kind of manage the distance that has the dynamic that they use to survive the relationship has created. And I want to, again, next article to write, not only rise of lonely single women, but rise of lonely men in relationships. Because I also think that there's a phenomenon going on there. So let's see. Bling is really pushing this. Okay, in academic article, the culture of individualism is damaging on many fronts. Yes, you know, I want to agree with this in a lot of ways. And Walt is definitely South America, Mexico is agreeing with me with Latin countries. Absolutely. But I want to say this is that individualism has turned into this thing where it's like you get to be your individual self, but you have to be all accepting of all other individuals. It's a real mind fuck. Is like, you know, but where's the difference? Where's the appreciation of the individual and that two people are coming together? I know I need you to be like me. I need you to succumb to my will. I need you to validate my emotional needs like my parents did and all sorts of crap. We're not growing in that way. Kids are super important, yes, but no one should stay in a relationship where they're being abused. 100%. And so many people do. And even with blended families, they keep with that stuff. It's outrageous. You know, kids act, by the way, folks, artificially resilient. And the resiliency is real, but it's artificial because it breaks down in adolescence and in young adulthood. The more they start to be able to conceptualize the world, the more they're able to recall certain, you know, patterns, memories, and ways of being due to trauma, the more difficult it is to interface with real world living. It's so confronting because they're so raw. So there looked like there was a resilience. It looked like maybe everything is okay. But once they hit the adult world, you can see that, man, they are thin-skinned and very raw, and it's it's difficult for them to reconcile all of that. Jacob, I really like that. And fell too. Working on yourself and figure yourself out is grueling. Yes. So is going to the gym. I love to make an analogy. It's like mental fitness, self-development. It is so important. But it is a lot of work. Actually, but you know, at some point I feel like it's a labor of love. Start with your body. Anybody wanting to do like real self-development, I say you have to start with your body being your tool. Start by thinking about what you put in it, but not only that, making sure that you are exercising and working out and moving it. There is something so empowering about that can get you on the right path, chemically, physically, like everything is now in alignment if your body is strong. So, and then your mind will be strong so you can endure the emotional labor. And, you know, I can't find a partner that respects themselves. Kids are taught respect. Well, a lot of times. You can say a little bit more about that. I think in this article, like, again, it doesn't really talk about exactly what men are experiencing too. Like, are they lonely just because they're being rejected by the app and rejected by women? Where is their autonomy in this and saying, no, I have a value of self-respect, and my respect, it needs to, like, I want somebody that can do that too. I don't want to take care of that lack in you. I can validate, or I can support you in your growth towards stronger levels of self-respect, but I cannot give that to you. So you do need to be really aware of that. Substance abuse and unhealthy diet has infected the dating pool. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, all they ever do, it's not like we're like going out there and doing things we're interested in. We're just like, okay, you want to go get drunk and eat food and see what happens? Yeah, Jacob, I think that's, again, and then the relationship just goes from there. Okay, so I guess this is what we do. But I mean, I do see, this is the thing with dating apps, is that I think that they have become a kind of an unproductive distraction for women and men, by the way. Women that spend too much time on these things are wasting their time, their energy. Again, I say, like, where's your emotional value? Men who spend too much time on these dating apps tend to get incredibly defensive and irritable. Like, folks, if you're using something or you're eating something or you're consuming something like a dating app and it makes you feel like shit, I'd like for you to just say again, I'm more emotionally valuable than this. Meaning, I want to preserve my well-being, my emotional state of well-being and happiness and feeling okay, and figure out other ways. And if I go on a hike with a hiking group and I feel good and I'm like talking to somebody, great, guy or gal. It's about being social. So, I think that this is what is just incredibly important, is that you do not continue to do something that feels bad because that's what everybody else is doing. In fact, it's not even working well. And most, oh my God. And I will say this, and this kind of drives me a little bit up the wall. A lot of women are looking for husbands on these things, folks. They're looking for people to settle down with because there's been no other way. They've been 2 years in COVID and now everybody's biological clock is going off. I think there's a lot of pressure right now that women are putting on themselves and then looking at these apps, and then men feel like they got to jump through hoops. There's a guy recently I heard about that rented out a zip lining park and did and bought and closed out a restaurant just to have a second date. I'm like, stop doing this kind of stuff. That's just too much. I don't even think a woman knows how to deal with that. But these dating apps are driving this man mad. Marriage has worked in the past because each person kept up their duty. Now people don't know roles. Yeah, I definitely think division of labor, really being clear on what your strengths are, what your partner's strengths are, and not letting that go by the wayside. I actually think that's so elementary, by the way. I work with people on that. I'm like, okay, many hands make light work. Let's work on this. It's a very simple conversation. And my phone is getting hot. 9, yes. Oh, this is a very appropriate song. Dating apps are unnatural and dehumanizing. I think that's. I gotta say, if you find somebody on a dating app, you're going to want to make sure that they are a person that is on your same wavelength as soon as possible. I personally thank you for sitting the rose. Oh, I can't believe I got to get off in 5 minutes. This one has been a good one, everyone. But what I was going to say is that, yeah, but so we were talking about how self-defeating they are and how if we let them to be a negative distraction and really internalize what that process is something that, like, whether or not we should accept or reject ourselves, we're in real hot water, because dating apps cannot be a substitute for getting out of your comfort zone and going out and doing things that you're interested in and meeting people in a natural, normal way now that COVID's over. I really think people should embrace that in general. Just being social, being part of the world, and coming out of that comfort zone again is incredibly important. Being with friends, calling people that you haven't called before, but not just keeping on with this thing and letting it dictate who you are to you, or dictate your mood or how you feel about dating or anything about a woman or anything about a man. Yeah, dating, but I know that the thing is what I call it, two things. And I really like this dating coach that I did a live with once. And she said, the best advice is, like, if you're talking to someone, don't waste your time. Ask for coffee or a FaceTime type of thing where you're seeing one another. Because the more you build up an idea of somebody in your head through text, the more elaborate, most likely, the fantasy becomes, your projections of what they're going to be like. And so you can start actually getting emotionally invested in someone without ever really even meeting them. So the sooner you meet them, coffee, not big dinner and drinks. Don't invest the entire night, right? Virgie's getting that. So that's the thing, is that I think that there's something about how you can use a dating app that makes a tremendous amount of sense, that says, okay, because it's a lotto. And I don't mean to be like, you know, you're going to date like 100 people before you find one that might stick. And it might take years of playing the lotto for you to have a one winning ticket. I don't know. I think there are other ways. I don't think they're all bad. And you know what? Again, Toxic Anonymous they aren't all bad. They are ways that we have to, as busy people with kids and all these things, you know, somehow connect with people. But there's a way to connect with people that show that you're real about what you're doing, and there's a way to connect with people to show that you're just wasting everybody's time. You know, you're just really not looking. You're looking for attention. A lot of people can use it for that. So, Jacob, I love that. The 2D online version of me attracts one-dimensional people. The one. So everyone, long distance is too powerful. I want to say that everyone, thank you so much for being on this live. I think I might come back tomorrow and continue to discuss this to see if anybody else wants to ask more questions, or if they've read the article. Please, I mean, it doesn't take long. I do think there's a little bit of a segment at the bottom about relationships being emotionally healing, I think, for both women and men. But this goes both ways. And so thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I have Emotional Warrior Radio podcast. If you want to go and check that out on Spotify, Emotional Warrior Radio. And there's a lot of sessions that I do with people, interviews, if you want to keep on learning for today. And I will do a video later, so see you then. Bye now. Read the article, yes. Thank you.